Hi there. We were doing a little exponents review. Exponents are a thing that, hey, you may have learned a long time ago. You may have not learned ever. Maybe you remember it, maybe you don't. But we're going to do just a quick review in this portion just of exponents in general. And our learning target is going to be I can expand and simplify exponents. So we'll make it quick. Um, Now, a couple things about exponents. The heck are exponents? Some of you might be saying, what the heck are they? But we've got three terms we need to know for exponents. Exponent, base, and power. All right, and sometimes exponent and power are used interchangeably. These are the technical terms. An exponent is a number showing how many times to multiply the base by itself. So I'm looking at this thing right here. This is 3 with a little 7 by it. Kind of looks like 37. It's not 37. This is 3 to the 7th power. That's what it said. Or 3 to the exponent of 7. So the exponent here is the 7. All right? Sorry, my arrow got a little funky there. I'm going to erase it and make that better. It's the 7. So the exponent is the 7. And I'll explain how this works in a bit. But the exponent is a little number. It's a little tiny number that's up to the right of a separate number. The base, hopefully you can take a guess at, but it's a number multiplied by itself repeatedly, and the base is the 3. Okay? The base. The base. The base and the exponent make up a power. A power is a base and an exponent showing repeated multiplication. So the whole thing is technically called a power. All right? And those are the basics of exponents. So let's talk about what exponents are, how they work exactly. And let's see here. Let's just read this through. Positive exponents. So we're just going to work with positive exponents right now, basics. The exponent, which is that little number, should be applied only to what it is immediately touching. So what it's immediately touching is the base. If there's anything else outside of it, it stays. If we're just working with the exponent. So I'll show you how this works. I got a couple examples here. 5, this is called 5 to the 3rd power, or 5 cubed. Remember, the exponent is the 3. That's the number that tells you how many times to multiply the base by itself. So in other words, the base is 5, so I'm going to multiply the base by itself 3 times. And 5 times 5 is 25, and then 25 times 5 is 125. So this is how you expand it, and you'd end up getting 125. So 5 to the 3rd power is 125. Now I got a couple other examples here. Let's do this this one down here. Again, just a regular positive exponent, positive base. The base is 12, the exponent is 3, so I'm going to do 12 times itself. Because again, 3 is just touching 12, there's nothing else. There's 12 times 12, and that's what we're looking for expanding it. If you want to find the actual answer of it, you could take a calculator, you could do it, write it out. 12 times 12 is 144, and 144 times 12, and it ends up being 1,728, in case you were wondering. Now, if you look at the rest of them, they all have negatives or parentheses in them, so those are going to be a little bit different. Let's just work with this one first of all, this negative 6 in parentheses to the 2nd power. So what's unique about this is the exponent itself is not touching a number, it's touching a parentheses. That means the base, or what you multiply by itself, is just everything in the parentheses, which is a negative 6. So in this case, it's just a negative 6 times a negative 6. And because that is the base. The base is a negative 6, and we multiply that by itself, you get positive 36. We'll do the one to the right of it. Now, look at this one. This one has 2 negatives. What do you do with those? Well, let's look at the exponent. The exponent, again, is applied to the parentheses. So it's the base is anything in the parentheses. And then you just leave whatever else is in there outside of it. So this negative is going to stay out here. This negative is going to stay right here. Then we're going to do all of this stuff. So then we're going to do negative 4 is the base times negative 4 times negative 4. Okay? So really what you're saying is you're taking the negative of whatever negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4 is. So this is going to be negative 4 times negative 4 is negative, there's positive 16, and 16 times negative 4 is 64. Well, it'd actually be negative 64. So it's negative 164. And by now we know that a negative negative or minus a negative is just a positive. So that becomes a positive not 164. Why am I writing a 164? Just positive 64. All right? And again, I'm showing you all these examples because there's so many tricky ones, and I don't want you to be tricked. I want you to be able to master these things and figure them out and say, I know how to do this. Let's look at the bottom right one now. Negative 12 to the second power. So what's inside parentheses is what you apply the exponent to because the exponent is attached to the parentheses. So really it's 12 times 12 with that negative out in front. So whatever 12 times 12 is, you do the negative of it. 12 times 12 is 144. So your answer is 144. Negative 144, sorry, because we're doing the negative of it. All right, this last one I'm going to use in red because this is, for some reason, always one of the trickiest ones for people. The exponent is applied to what it is touching, immediately touching. It's immediately touching the 1. There's no parentheses for this one, but it's just immediately touching the 1. So the negative just stays out in front, and we do the 1 times itself 6 times, which is 1, and then our answer is going to be negative of that. Okay, a lot of times we want to look at that and say, well, we're going to do negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1, but the negative is not being applied, or the exponent is not being applied to the negative because it's not immediately touching it. And I can show you a different example where you'd have negative 1 in parentheses with the 6 applied to it. Now, you apply the exponent to the negative 1 because it's touching, the exponent is touching the parentheses, and negative 1 is in the parentheses. So it's applied to everything in there. So this would be negative 1 times 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 negative 1, which I believe is a positive 1 in the end. So again, they're totally different. One is a negative 1 and one is a positive 1. All right, so that's one of the most difficult parts of exponents. And I'm going to leave it at that for expanding exponents. I kind of want to go backwards real quick and say write each of the following using exponents. Because if you really understand exponents, then I think you'll understand how to do this. So 144 times 144. We can write that as an exponent because it's 144 multiplied by itself. It's multiplied by itself 2 times, so it's an exponent of 2. 144 squared, or raised to the second power, would be the same as 144 times, why am I saying 144? 141 times 141. Next one, we have 0.5 times 0.5 times 0.5 times 0.5 times 0.5. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times it's multiplied by itself. Since it's multiplied by itself, there's repeated multiplication, and we can use an exponent. And we're going to raise that to the 5 to the 5th power. And if you want to be safe, you can put it inside of parentheses. So it's the whole 0.5 raised to the 5th power. And finally, we got those negatives. This is negative 1 times 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 negative 1. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. So your choices would be negative 1 raised to the 8th power, or negative 1 raised to the 8th power. One of them is correct. One of them is not correct. The second one is the correct one, because it's the whole negative 1 that's being multiplied by itself 8 times. This top one is not correct because then you'd just be applying the exponent to the 1, and you just have 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 8 times with that 1 negative sign out way out in front. Okay? Got to have the parentheses if it's the negative 1 that's being multiplied by itself 8 times. All right. That is all we're going to cover right now for exponents review. Those are the basics of exponents. Please make sure you have those examples written down, you have any questions written down that you have, and you ask those next time. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day.